So continuing with the drugs in the treatment of gastrointestinal diseases, today we are going to start with the drugs used in the treatment of peptic ulcer or anti-ulcer drugs. Peptic ulcer is a disease which occurs in that part of the GIT which gets continuously exposed to the gastric acid and pepsin. That is, it occurs in the stomach and duodenum. The various etiological factors involved in the causation of peptic ulcer include, most important being an imbalance between the ulcer causing and ulcer protective factors, aggressive factors and the defensive factors. Now, what are the various aggressive factors? That is hydrochloric acid, pepsin and infection with Helicobacter pylori, presence of H. pylori organisms. Various defensive factors include gastric mucus, which is secreted by the mucus secreting cells that are scattered throughout the gastric mucosa. The bicarbonate ions, these two form a gel-like layer, unstirred gel-like layer over the gastric mucosa. The prostaglandins interfere with the synthesis of hydrochloric acid, and there is some innate resistance of the mucosal cells to injury. Every cell has some innate resistance to injury or ulceration, so that also plays a defensive role. Now, if these defensive factors are reduced or the aggressive factors are increased, that is, there is an imbalance, that plays an important role in causing ulceration of the gastric or duodenal mucosa. In addition to this imbalance, there are certain psychosomatic factors, humoral factors and vascular derangements that may also contribute to the causation of imbalance. Now, as the disturbance in the gastric acid or pepsin or mucus secretion is playing a causative role, an important prominent role in causing peptic ulceration, we need to understand the physiology, what normally happens, how it gets disturbed and how can we tackle that situation. So normally there is secretion of gastric juice about 2.5 liters daily. This gastric juice consists of pepsinogen secreted by the chief cells, which gets converted then to the pepsin, hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor released from the parietal cells. Then there are mucus secreting cells scattered over the mucosa. Then there is secretion of bicarbonate ions. Both these contents form a gel-like layer covering the gastric mucosa that plays a protective role. And because of presence of this gel-like layer formed of mucus containing bicarbonate ions, there is a pH gradient. On the mucosal surface, pH is high, 6 to 7, whereas in the lumen it is very low, 1 to 2, very acidic. Now, this diagram shows the mechanism of secretion of hydrochloric acid from the parietal cells. This is the luminal side, this is blood or plasma. Inside the parietal cell, what happens is, under the influence of enzyme carbonic anhydrase, carbon dioxide and water combined forming carbonic acid, H2CO3, and under the influence of same enzyme, carbonic anhydrase helps in formation of H2CO3 and its breakdown into protons or H ions and bicarbonate ions. So what happens is, these bicarbonate ions are exchanged with chloride ions coming from the plasma. There is exchange of anions. Bicarbonate moves into the plasma, chloride enters into the parietal cell. So see, the direction of movement is opposite, but it is electrically neutral. One negative charge going out, one coming in. So this is an anti-porter. Anti means opposite directions, a transporter which moves the two ions in the opposite directions. After that, these chloride ions move from the luminal side of the parietal cell into the lumen of the gastric canaliculi and later on pass into the lumen of the stomach along with the potassium ions. So both a positive charge and one negative charge process is again electrically neutral, but both the charges are now moving in the same direction, both are moving out of the cell. So this protein is a symporter, two ions moving in the same direction. Now this potassium is then exchanged with these protons. H ions are protons. So this proton comes into the lumen and potassium moves back into the cell. Now the direction is opposite to each other. Protons are being pumped out. Protons are being pumped out of the parietal cell into the lumen of gastric canaliculi in exchange for potassium ions. This enzyme is known as, or this carrier is known as proton potassium ATPase. It is energy using process, proton potassium ATPase, or in simple words we call it as proton pump, as it is pumping out protons. Proton pump. It is the final enzyme in the synthesis of hydrochloric acid, because H ions reach into the lumen, chloride is here, so hydrochloric acid is formed, which keeps the luminal pH of stomach on acidic level. Is that clear? Proton pump is the final enzyme. So if all the processes are going on but this is inhibited, so acid synthesis will be interrupted. Acid synthesis due to any reason needs this final step. So proton pump inhibitors are a very important group of drugs when we want to decrease the synthesis of hydrochloric acid. What are the various regulators of secretion of stomach? Histamine is a paracrine secretion of GIT, secreted from the enterochromaffin cells, or we say histaminocytes. It acts on histaminergic 2 receptors. Don't call hydrogen receptors. Histamine will have to act on H2 receptors present on the parietal cells. It increases the cyclic AMP generation, which increases calcium, and there occurs activation of proton pump leading to hypersecretion of hydrochloric acid. The second important regulator of gastric secretion is acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter of parasympathetic system. So from the parasympathetic vagal stimulation activates nicotinic receptors and muscarinic type 1 receptors present in the ganglionic cells of intramural plexuses. There is Orbeck's plexus and Meissner's plexus. Between the two layers, longitudinal and circular layers of muscles, there is myenteric plexus, and between the circular muscle layer and on the luminal side of the circular muscle layer, you can say, lies the Meissner's plexus. So these two intramural plexuses are part of the enteric nervous system. There are ganglionic cells in these plexuses. The parasympathetic fibers coming from vagus nerve, they activate the ganglions on nicotinic and muscarinic 1 receptors. Again, from the ganglia, acetylcholine is the transmitter released, but now it is in close proximity of histamine secreting and gastrin secreting cells. Now if you remember from ANS, acetylcholine secreted from vagus is at a distance from these cells. but acetylcholine secreted by these ganglionic cells is very close to histaminocytes and gastrin secreting cells, thus it induces the secretion of histamine and gastrin. Whereas if we give the drugs which act like acetylcholine, the cholinergic agonists, they have comparatively longer half-lives. They will activate the muscarinic 2 or 3 receptors present on the parietal cells, causing the phospholipase C activation, IP3-DAG pathway, increased intracellular calcium, and activation of proton pump, leading to acid secretion. So acetylcholine coming from vagus acts through ganglionic cells and increases histamine and gastrin release, which indirectly increase the activation of proton pump and acid release. Whereas cholinergic drugs, they act directly on the parietal cells, increasing the release of hydrochloric acid. So histamine can act directly on the parietal cells through H2 receptors. Acetylcholine can act on the histaminocytes and gastrin cells, as well as acetylcholine agonists act on the parietal cells. Then there is gastrin. Gastrin is released from the antral cells in response to various secretagogues like food, increase in the antral pH, vagal stimulation, as we have seen above. Vagal stimulation, there is secretion of gastrin, it activates the gastrin receptors. Now where are these gastrin receptors? Either they are present on the histaminocytes, so histamine is increased, which further acts through H2 receptors, or gastrin can act directly on the parietal cells and activate phospholipase C and increase the acid secretion through IP3-DAG pathway. So is that clear? Acetylcholine acting on other two types of cells as well as parietal cells. Histamine acting on parietal cells. Gastrin acting on histamine as well as parietal cells. This will be more clear from the next diagram. See, increase, what are the secretagogues which increase the gastric acid secretion? Acetylcholine from vagal stimulation will act on these ganglia present in the myenteric and Meissner's plexus on the nicotinic and muscarinic 1 type of receptors. These ganglion cells again increase acetylcholine, which is very near to histamine secreting and gastrin secreting cells, but is away from the parietal cells, right? So in response to this acetylcholine released by ganglion cells, there occurs release of histamine, which acts on H2 receptors. There occurs release of gastrin, which acts on gastrin receptors present on the parietal cells, and they cause the secretion of acid or activation of the proton pump. The cholinergic agonists given as drugs from outside act on M2 or M3 receptors present on the parietal cells and increase the gastric secretion. In addition to parietal cells, this gastrin acts on parietal cells as well as it acts through histamine. Histaminocytes, gastrin indirectly increases histamine secretion and histamine leads to acid secretion. Right? So if we block the H2 receptors, the response to histamine will decrease, the response to gastrin will also decrease, because gastrin is also acting through histamine. So if we want to decrease this secretion, either we should block M1 receptors, anticholinergic drugs, as acetylcholine is helping in secretion. So M1 blocker pyrazipine we have discussed with ANS plays a role, or we block the histaminergic receptors, or we block the proton pump as we have discussed in the previous diagram, which is the final step of acid secretion. So important drugs: H2 blockers, anticholinergics, and proton pump inhibitors, PPIs. Now physiologically, what regulates the gastric acid secretion is prostaglandin E2. Now histamine was generating activating proton pump through generation of cyclic AMP, even gastrin. So prostaglandin E2 opposes the formation of cyclic AMP and opposes the gastrin release. So it decreases the acid secretion, number one. Second role of prostaglandin E2 is cytoprotective, protecting the gastric mucosal cells from injury by the aggressive factors. Cytoprotective role is due to increase in the mucus and bicarbonate secretion. So prostaglandin has both actions. It is decreasing the aggressive factors and it is increasing the protective factors. So if we give prostaglandin analogs, they will decrease the acid secretion. So with this much of understanding about the mechanism of secretion of gastric acid and its regulation by three important factors: histamine, gastrin and acetylcholine, and fourth one being prostaglandins. So now we can move on to what are the various drugs which can be used for the treatment of anti-ulcer. I have already introduced some groups, but for classification in a proper fashion, for treating the ulcer, as acid is an aggressive factor, overall acid levels may be normal, may be high, but acid does play a flaring role in the peptic ulcer disease. So in peptic ulcer treatment, we always try to give drugs which can reduce the secretion of this aggressive factor, acid secretion reducing drugs. Then if we want to give symptomatic relief, we can use the drugs which neutralize the acid that is already present in the lumen. Such drugs will be known as antacids, against the acid, which neutralize the acid, reduce the secretion, neutralize the acid which has already been formed. Then we can give the drugs which improve the effect of protective factors which protect the gastric mucosa from damage by this acid, ulcer protectives. Then as H. pylori was one of the aggressive factors, we can give drugs which check the growth of H. pylori, anti-H. pylori drugs, antibiotics or antimicrobial agents which check the growth of H. pylori. So first group, drugs reducing acid secretion include H2 antihistaminics. Now H2 receptors present on parietal cells through which histamine was causing acid secretion, we block these H2 receptors, H2 blockers. Don't say hydrogen, H2 blockers. Histamine 2 receptor blockers include cimetidine, ranitidine, famotidine, roxetidine, and a new drug, second generation H2 blocker, lefutidine. Then this was the final enzyme, proton pump, potassium proton exchanger, proton pump inhibitors. They include a very commonly used group of drugs: omeprazole, lansoprazole, pantoprazole, esomeprazole, rabeprazole, dexrabeprazole and enalaprazole. Then as acetylcholine was playing a role in the secretion of gastric acid, so anticholinergics like pyrazipine, which is selective M1 receptor blocker on the ganglion cells, pyrazipine. Then we have propantheline, oxyphenolium. Now prostaglandins were decreasing the cyclic AMP generation and gastrin release, so they decreased acid secretion. So prostaglandin analog misoprostol is useful in peptic ulcer. This is the first group, drugs decreasing the secretion of acid from the gastric parietal cells. Second group is drugs neutralizing the preformed acid. They are known as antacids. They can be systemic, which get absorbed. Sodium bicarbonate, sodium citrate. Non-systemic are the magnesium salts, magnesium hydroxide, magnesium trisilicate, aluminium salt, milk. This is milk of magnesium, magnesium hydroxide. Then we have aluminium hydroxide, we have calcium carbonate and megaltrate. These are antacids. So antacids are the drugs which neutralize the acid by simple chemical reaction. Sodium bicarbonate plus hydrochloric acid will form sodium chloride, carbon dioxide and water. Then we have drugs which protect the gastric mucosa from damage, ulcer protectives. They include sucralfate, very important drug, sucralfate, and we have CBS, colloidal bismuth sulfate. Then we have drugs, antimicrobial agents which play a role against H. pylori. They include amoxicillin, tetracycline, clarithromycin, metronidazole, tinidazole and colloidal bismuth sulfate. Anti-H. pylori drugs. So have you seen all the four groups? Drugs reducing acid secretion, anticholinergics, H2 blockers and proton pump inhibitors. Drugs neutralizing acid, systemic and non-systemic antacids. Ulcer protectives are sucralfate and colloidal bismuth sulfate. And anti-H. pylori drugs are antimicrobials, amoxicillin, clarithromycin, tetracyclines, metronidazole, tinidazole, as well as this ulcer protective. CBS is also, colloidal bismuth sulfate also has anti-H. pylori effect. So after that we will discuss the H2 antihistaminics. Drugs included, you know, cimetidine, ranitidine, famotidine, roxetidine and lafutidine. These drugs are competitive H2 blockers except this famotidine, which binds with strong bonds and produces a partial non-competitive type of antagonism at H2 receptors. So it is longer acting than others. Competitive H2 blockade, and these drugs are very selective for the H2 receptors. They do not have any action on H1 receptors or other receptors. So major action of H2 blockers is the inhibition of gastric acid secretion, as H2 receptors are present on parietal cells. So major action is inhibition of gastric secretion in a dose dependent manner, and all the phases, basal gastric secretion, that in response to food, the neurogenic, all phases of gastric secretion are suppressed by H2 blockers. The secretory response to all the secretagogues is attenuated, not only to histamine but to all, because you have seen that diagram where gastrin is acting on histaminocytes, acetylcholine is also acting through histamine. So all secretagogues response is reduced or attenuated. There is overall reduction in the volume of gastric secretion. Normal is 2.5 liters daily. Here with H2 antihistaminics it is reduced, acid is reduced, pepsin is reduced, intrinsic factor is also reduced, but the effect is most prominent on the acid levels. Now here it is important to mention that although these drugs reduce the intrinsic factor, but the effect is not as prominent to cause any disturbance in the B12 absorption. These drugs do not have any effect on the motility of the stomach, esophagus and on the tone of the lower esophageal sphincters. The first drug in this group was cimetidine. Nowadays it is less frequently used than other H2 blockers because when used by intravenous route in stress ulcers, in prevention of stress ulcers, we use it by intravenous. So it can cause central adverse effects, confusion, hallucinations and convulsions, and cardiac arrhythmias. Sometimes even cardiac arrest can occur after intravenous use. The common adverse effects with cimetidine are headache, dizziness, dryness of mouth, and upset of the bowel. These are seen with others also. Then it has endocrinal side effects. It causes anti-androgenic effect, causing loss of libido, impotence, oligozoospermia. It causes hyperprolactinemia and gynecomastia in the males. And next factor is it is an enzyme inhibitor. Cimetidine, if you remember the examples of enzyme inhibitors, cytochrome P450 inhibition, so it interferes with the metabolism of many simultaneously given drugs, and there occur interaction with many drugs. So cimetidine is not used nowadays, or very less used nowadays. We prefer to use ranitidine and other drugs because it has central cardiac adverse effects, endocrinal effects, and is an enzyme inhibitor causing many interactions. Commonly used drug ranitidine, which most of people are familiar with and have used, it is more potent as compared to cimetidine, long acting. It has no central or endocrinal adverse effects. Mild adverse effect incidence is also less than cimetidine. Risk of enzyme inhibition and interactions is also less. Ranitidine is preferred over cimetidine because of longer duration, high potency, and lesser adverse effects and lesser interactions. Famotidine, which binds non-competitively, partial non-competitive inhibition, and roxetidine are further more potent and longer acting as compared to this ranitidine. The new drug is lefutidine. It causes H2 blockade. At the same time, increases the generation of NO. NO is vasodilator. So blood flow increases. Innate resistance of the mucosal cells increases. More mucus is produced, and there is cytoprotective effect. Lefutinide double action, but whether this double action has any clinical advantage over the older drugs is not at present clear.